Hello, I'm Jessica Amir for the Finance News Network. Joining me now from junior oil and gas explorer Pancontinental Oil and Gas is Executive Director and CEO John Begg. John, welcome to Sydney.
Thanks, Jessica.
First up, John, in September last year, you really ramped up your growth strategy. So where's the company at today?
Well, we've drilled 2 wells. We're about to get into initial gas production in California. We're looking to sort of scale that business up if we can. And we have a big well coming up in offshore Namibia later this year, in fact just a few months away in September. Overall, I think we've introduced something like by that time we'll have introduced something like $31 million of investments to make our project happen, while only tapping into $6 million of shareholder funds.
Now to your recent announcement about your offshore Namibia project, PCL 87. Just tell us what the mapping revealed.
PCL 87 is our newest block. We've got an active new venture program ongoing with everything else we're doing. It covers over almost 11,000 square kilometres. The geology is very similar to what we see further to the north in PCL 37, where we'll be drilling later in the year, but more than that, very similar geology to what we see further up the West African coast, where very large oil discoveries are being made in play types like that we're mapping in PCL 87. In PCL 87 in particular, we see a thick oil-prone source rock, which has been proved by recent drilling, extending into the block, sitting beneath these very large structures and potential traps that we're mapping, some of which are hundreds of square kilometres in size. So
John, can you give us a little bit more context about the size of these projects?
Well, I think a good indication of the potential is that on this trend, both to the south and to the north of us, some of the super major oil companies, the world's biggest oil companies, have recently farmed into the acreage. We know that Shell, for example, are planning a well immediately south of the block, and further to the north, immediately adjacent to PCL 37, our block to the north, ExxonMobil have just entered into the area. Now, those companies don't come into offshore exploration if they don't think they can find giant-scale resources of oil.
And in September, I understand that you'll be participating or drilling in one of the most watched wells of 2018. So just tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be drilling the Cormorant 1 on one of these big turbidite plays, as we call them, that have been so successful up and down the West African margin. The operator is Tulainyo Oil, a fabulous operating company and explorer of Africa. We have a big partnership there. We have a 20% interest. We are free carried through this well, so we don't have any exposure to the cost of the well. It's drilling a big prospect. If it's successful, then there's a series of follow-up prospects mapped in the block on 3D seismic, so we have very good definition of them. And the scale, as we've just talked about, is potentially for giant-scale oil reserves.
And moving around the globe to California, just give us an update on your projects there.
Well, our strategy has been to combine exploration with large volume potential prospects with projects that we could get into production and revenue more quickly, so to mature the company's portfolio. So that was the idea of getting into California. We will be in initial commercial gas production there, but at this stage the projects haven't quite hit the scale we were looking for. We've got a lot of ground there, and we're putting it through a strategic review to see whether we can boost the scale of what we've achieved there so far.
Now to finances, John, can you give us a quick update?
Well, we're managing that well, considering the size of the projects we're in. Our cost exposure is minimal. As I mentioned before, we're carried entirely through the cost of our interest in the well that we're drilling in September in Namibia, the Cormorant 1. And in fact, when that well commences drilling, one of our partners who acquired their interest in the project through us will be making a $7 million payment to us.
And lastly, John, why should investors consider adding PCL or Pancontinental to their portfolio?
We're funded. We've got a good game plan. We've got a history of bringing in projects where our shareholders are highly leveraged to success. We keep doing it. We've got an active new ventures program that's going to continue to introduce projects like that. And the next one, of course, is only a few months away in September, the Cormorant 1. We're participating with an effective 20% interest in what industry says is going to be one of the most watched wells anywhere in the world this year.
Wonderful. John Begg, thank you so much for the update and good luck with the drilling.
Cheers, thank you.